Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of League of Legends. I forgot the name of the league for a second there. We got Jordan on this week. We got Anthony on this week. What's going up? What's going on, guys? How did you
another
guys do
Thursday.
last week?
It's a big week coming up.
Yep.
It's make or break it here, folks.
I think this week is probably the most. Well, obviously, it's the most important so far. That's usually how it goes. Each new week is the most important.
Yeah, typically.
Is it like elections? Each one's the most important one?
Yep,
Exactly.
until you don't have them anymore.
Don't forget to vote. But I feel like this week, it's the people that are going to rise to the top are going to be put on a very good path. And for Anthony, I feel like if you can win this week, you can get right back into the mix. But for other teams that are struggling, it's going to be tough if you lose this week.
You're to the point now where if you if you don't turn it around, you start running out of games pretty quick.
Yeah, this week's scrapped for me, or this season rather is scrapped for me. I'm just gonna try and put up a fight and see what I can do. Maybe I'll sneak into the playoffs. If is it random?
The playoffs?
Do we
No.
have like a random wildcard slot? We had a new idea about how do the playoffs work then?
So the playoffs
No, I'm thinking of the toilet bowl. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, the toilet bowl is just the other 6 teams.
Yeah.
And the team that wins the toilet bowl gets to pick their draft position next year, and we're actually going to do that this year.
That's
think it's a good
what
idea.
sites are on.
So it gives us
that. So I'm still
gives you some
looking
incentive
for
to keep
trades.
being competitive.
Mhm.
We're this is week 7, so we're basically this is the middle week. I think we get 13 weeks.
And then
Should we just
playoffs.
double check. 13 weeks. Yep, and then 3 weeks of playoffs. So we are at the halfway point, gentlemen.
So what you're saying is, if I won out from here on, I have a chance.
I'm saying there's a chance.
Yes. Okay. You guys,
need some
before I
luck,
joined
but
this call, you guys were about to talk about the trade between me and Anthony. Now I want to hear what that conversation would have been had I not interrupted
Chip.
you. Oh, Chip's here for okay.
Hello?
Hello.
Nice. Okay, Chip, you can jump in on this too. They were just about to talk about the trade that me and Anthony made live on air last week.
Right.
I don't think it was a bad trade for either side. I think Jeremy, you got Schultz, right? The tight end for Dallas?
Yes.
I think his value is going to rise up a lot because Andy Dalton did not look good on Monday Night Football. So I think it's going to be a lot of that dink and dunk to the tight end from now on, and they can't give the ball to Zeke because he fumbles it every other time he has it. So they're going to rely on those short gains and stuff, and they're not going to put up 40 points a game or anything like that. But I think Schultz is a solid tight end that you got, and with tight ends coming at a premium this year, especially, I think you got a good value there.
Okay.
I'd say so too. I was looking at that too. That I think it's a decent trade on both sides. Did you guys know that Hayden Hurst has now been traded 3 times in our league?
Oh my gosh.
Nobody wants him.
Part of like every other trade. I just want to point that out there. Allen Robinson is a great player to be getting.
Solid receiver.
Yep, solid receiver. And like I just heard you talking about Schultz. If you watched the last game, which was disastrous for Dallas, Schultz was one of those bright spots. So I was looking at him too. In fact, I typed him in. I was like, "Is he available? Like, I need a tight end still." So I think it's a great trade. I think Jeremy getting Gordon was like a priority for you. You needed a running back.
Yep.
That's not just going to give you a few points, and he has the ability to give you more than just a few. So
yeah.
I think it's a good trade all around.
And possibly
Depends on that
not
DUI
suspended.
suspension though, but
He's a go for this week.
yeah. And then that brings up, hey, Philip Lindsay is available for anyone that needs a running back. I'm just putting him out there. I mean, not for free, but
Do you want a tight end? Let's do another trade this week.
Hold on, let's see what you got. Zeke and Philip Lindsay for Mixon and Kareem Hunt.
Zeke is untouchable. Chip tries to keep getting him in a trade with me, and he tries to sneak him in there, and I say no every single time.
I'll throw Hayden Hurst in too.
There you go.
So last time I was listening
What do you think about this guy, Dalton Schultz?
So anyway, back on track. Last time I was listening to the podcast, it was like 2 a.m. And I'm like, I'll just offer Chip a trade or something. And Chip responds within seconds at like 2 a.m. on like a Tuesday. It's like, what the hell?
A big red
I was
light
I
goes
was
off.
up and I was looking at it. I was up and looking at it, and then you sent me something, and I was like, "Oh, hey, all right. Since you're awake, here's an offer." And we went back and forth for a while,
That's funny.
and we both decided let's just sleep on this. Yeah.
Another thing that I want to talk about this week is the impact that rookies have had this year, especially wide receivers. For instance, Justin Jefferson is ranked 7th in PPR leagues for receivers. Out of all receivers, CeeDee Lamb is ranked 10th. Chase Claypool is 15th. Laviska Shenault is 34th. Travis Fulgham is 35th. And Brandon Ayuk is 44th. And then for running backs, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is 11th. Jonathan Taylor is 15th. And DeAndre Swift is 25th. So I think it's kind of interesting seeing, especially for the wide receivers, like the amount of impact that they've had right away. Jefferson was one of those guys that I was looking at drafting, and I unfortunately couldn't get him. And I think I traded with the Rager Bombs, I think, and I traded him for like a 10th round pick, and I got a 17th round pick and Justin Jefferson. So that's one of the trades I've been more happy with this year because he's been balling out recently.
I think Ben was actually pretty happy with that trade when he did it. Not sure if he's as happy now, but I think he was trying to get rid of a little depth. He was looking for some other players. So,
well, it was a deep wide receiver class this year too. Especially like even with rookies, it is so deep that one of those guys had to break out. And CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson seemed, and even Chase Claypool, they seem to be those guys who could prove to be like number one receivers in this league.
I think with wide receivers too, and really any position with a rookie, and running back is no different, that there are a lot of players that are probably like me where we just avoid it, right? You don't know what you're getting. You have no idea if the rookie is going to even make it to the point where they can actually play a few games that year, and you just avoid it altogether unless it's just a home run, which not a lot of those names that you mentioned way back when there was no preseason were going to be a home run, and look at them now. And so I think that's interesting because there are a lot of players that have gone down and been injured, or people just struck out on because they were a name, and all of a sudden you got all these rookies who are just running up to the top 15, top 20 in positions that names that you've never heard of that you have to grab off the wire or you can trade for, and it's just made it for such a weird year, in that regard. So I agree with you.
Well, Travis Fulgham for the Eagles, he's been having like 15 points a game for the past couple of weeks or something like that because Carson Wentz literally has nobody else to throw to. So like situations like those, I feel like are really important to watch out for because it has to be that next man up mentality. And you just got to watch out for that. Like Chase Claypool, you guys talked about last week how somebody bid like $50 for him. I bid 40, so it was a good move on his part because he had like 4 touchdowns in a game. So those rookie wide receivers are really dangerous. Anyone have anything to add to that?
Correct. No, I have.
I agree with everything you just said there.
Yeah, I'm trying to find a running back. I'm sorry. I was looking at your roster, trying to offer you some, because I'm trying to really want a running back. But we can do that off the podcast.
Unfortunately, Mostert is probably going to be put on the IR. So that's a shame. But Devontae Freeman he's been like reborn in the Giants organization. I feel like he's getting like the majority of the carries. So again, next man up.
Yeah, that's a good running back strategy that I think I might try and steal from you.
All right.
You guys
What
want
else
to
you
get
guys
into the
gotta talk
matchups this
about?
week?
Before we go to that, I have a couple things that I wrote down that I thought we should mention as well. Like the league overall, thinking about the league overall right now, it is just an odd year. I mean, we keep saying this, but just to point out how odd of a year this is, the third place team right now in our league, Refrigerator, that's Nick, has the most points.
Wow.
Right?
It's
So
sad.
he's third
I'd be
place,
pissed.
he has the most
Yeah.
points. There is no team that has a perfect record, which isn't super rare, but the team that's in first place, just to point out how weird this gets, the team that's in first place, which is Marine City, this is Don's team. He has a 4-game winning streak, which is great. And not to knock the team at all, but just to show how weird this year is, 2 of his wins are only by 2 points.
Wow.
So
That's crazy.
This is a crazy year. And
one of those me?
let me throw in another crazy curveball. The top scoring team of any week right now has been AJ's team with not just 100 and like say 40 or 50 points, 189 points total. Just absolutely trounced whoever it was that week, unfortunately. So
Was that
He's
against-
2 and 4.
Who was he against?
So
I think it was
that-
you, Jeremy.
I know it was me. Of course it was me.
I think it was you.
of course it was Jeremy's
And one of
team that
Donnie's
week.
wins, I think, was on me.
So it kind of goes to show you, like, getting into the playoffs is all about consistency, right? Like, you got to have those points every week. Once you get in the playoffs, it's all about upside.
Exactly.
You know, it really is. Any team can have the big week. All you got to do is get into the playoffs. So it's frustrating for the teams that do really well all season, and then they hit the playoffs, and all of a sudden something weird happens. Ask Ben; he'll tell you. I think he's had 3 years in a row like that. Nick had a year where his running backs put up 140 points or 150 points in his 3 running backs, and I beat him. It happens, you know. So it's all a lot of luck when it comes to the end. But consistency, like if you got a team that's making it to the playoffs every year, that's pretty consistent. And you've got good teams.
Yeah, going back to what Chip said about like 2 of those wins came with like 2 points or whatever, that just goes to show how quickly things can turn around in our league. Like if a ball bounces the wrong way or someone drops a catch, he has 2 more losses and looking at 3 and 3.
Right.
So like that just shows how crazy like this year has been. Also with bye weeks coming up, more and more bye weeks. What the heck just happened?
Oh, I tried to show you the Never mind.
Okay. Anyway, as we get deeper into teams with their bye weeks, like I know they've been happening for a little bit, but like I have like Baltimore's on a bye. I know like those players. That's a big offense. A lot of people have those offensive players. Vikings are on a bye. I know Justin Jefferson's going to be a big loss for me this week. So it's just I have to. How do you guys go about doing taking care of stuff on a bye week? Do you find the waiver wire? Do you rely on your bench? Do you try to make a quick trade real quick, or how do you guys do that?
I usually look a week ahead before I'm really worried about it. Like that's why I was texting you that one day in our other league begging for a quarterback because like I was good for that week, but I needed it for the next week. So I'm always like trying to put them like I don't want it to be a problem come game day. Like I try to nip it in the bud as soon as possible. And I haven't had any like because my running backs are so like just dog shit trash. Like they're a dime a dozen, and I haven't had to really like worry about not having a particular tool, I guess. But usually when I do, I get it pretty early.
Yeah, I just use the waiver wire, and like he was saying, Jeremy was saying, I look a week ahead. If I'm gonna get hit pretty hard with the buys, then I'll start planning ahead to like who could I possibly drop and still lose, and then pick a random person up, and then just be working with that. But honestly, the buys don't bother me. I don't draft for it. I don't even really look at it and go, oh crap, I've got a bunch of week 8s or a bunch of week 7s or whatever. I just deal with it when it comes up because if it's going to be a bad week, it's going to be a bad week, you know? So at least you've got an excuse. that you're on bye week, right? So if you lose, you can be like, well, I mean, I was on a bye week. So yeah, I don't think anyone should worry about it.
And I kind of look at it like that too. And the other thing that, you know, I look at the matchup too, because let's say I'm playing a team, let's say I'm projected to win by 20 points, even with the bye. You know, I know that's not typical, but let's say you're in a matchup that you feel pretty comfortable you're going to win, even with your tight end out or whatever. I may not drop wide receiver depth or running back depth to pick up a tight end. I might just take the donut.
That's what I was asking, really, because there's certain players, like, you don't want to give up this wide receiver because you know he has value, but then your defense, you might not have a good defense, because I only carry one defense and, like, one tight end and one kicker. So that's where, like, a lot of the problems that I have is, do I drop somebody in order to fill that hole of a defense, where the defense is probably going to give me like 4 to 5 points, or do I just take the 0? But like Chip said, 2 points can make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
No, they can, and it really depends on where you're at. If you're one of the top teams in the league where you're pretty well set, that you feel comfortable, you're probably going to make the playoffs, then it's not, one loss isn't that big of a deal. If you're 2-4 and you feel like your team has a chance, if you can make the playoffs, then every win. You have to have every win. You can't afford to take a loss at this point. So there's a lot of things that go into it, but I think it just depends on where you're at and what the matchup looks like. And I think Jorge, I think he had a player on bye last week that he left in because he didn't pick anyone up.
Yeah, I saw that. Yep.
Yeah, so it just depends on your situation. The other thing that sometimes I know a lot of people will like to draft players to try to avoid having multiple players in bye 1 week. I don't necessarily look at that, but there's times where I actually will try to pick players in the bye and just say, I'm just going to take that week as a loss.
Yeah,
and then
I do that too.
Just knock them out in 1 week and then move on.
Yep.
Get it over with. Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard at the beginning of the season to plan for that because we've seen it this year with so many injuries. You don't know who's actually going to be healthy at one point, or not.
Or even with COVID, who knows when you're going to have your bye week now? So
exactly. Everything's changing so much, you just don't know.
When I was looking at just everything, thinking about the podcast today and what we could possibly talk about, I looked at all the keepers. And it's amazing how you can go through and just be like, that guy's injured, that guy's injured, that guy's injured, that guy's not on this team anymore, that guy's not with that player anymore. It's even that strategy has been blown apart by COVID and everything else. So, there isn't, this league, one of the things I really like about it too is when you look at the amount of movement in just the last few weeks, like people are making adjustments. There is no one settling for just where they're at. I mean, including Jeremy. He's 0-6, and he's sitting there calling out for a trade. I mean, I love the fact that everyone's competitive and everyone's trying to make it better. And one team that I was looking at who has the most movement is Adam's team. No pants since March. 28 moves total, roster moves. Wow. And he's 3-3, and he's continuing to try and like chip it apart and try and get there. And I'm playing him this week, and I was like, what has he been up to lately? I haven't seen him, as a team lately, and I'm looking at it, trying to figure it out. I'm like, he is just absolutely trying to make all the moves. He's picking up players. 28 roster spots have changed with Adam since the beginning of the year. That's amazing.
That is crazy.
So everybody is working real hard to try and like figure this out with COVID and injuries and yeah. So I appreciate being in a league where you just don't know who you're going against from 1 week.
Exactly.
Yep.
Do you want to look at last week's matchups and who won, who lost, stuff like that, real quick?
Yeah, you can go through that.
Guys, I can't stay on for the whole thing, so I'll probably jump off after we do last week's matchups.
Okay, that's fine.
Just a little note.
All right, so real quick, the Juices lose. My team beat Jeremy's team,
Sure did.
130-62. We won't get into that.
Can I interject real quick? This is not with last week, but this was something I was going through the record book myself. And Jeremy, this is special for you. So team points most. Depression got 189 points against who? Jeremy this year. All time was me last year. Going up against a Sunday drive. So, Jeremy, you're in there twice.
Wow. The wrong side of history.
If I was going to be anywhere, this is where...
All right, sorry. Let's get back to it. I saw that. I didn't want to forget it.
So I moved to 4-2. Jeremy dropped to 0-6. Number one bench got their second win against Busted Lip, 119-83. No Pants since March moved to... I'm sorry, you want to say something, Anthony?
No, I got very lucky.
Okay.
Brennan's team had a crappy week for him, and I just snuck by. Oh, look at the cute dog. Cute puppy.
I miss him.
You know, being a podcast.
He's a star.
No Pants since March got their third win against my Ditka in a box, moving him to 3-3 against Ditka's 4-2. Rager Bombs dropped to 4-2, which was I needed that against the refrigerator. Moved to 4-2. 94 to 134. Hempire Strikes Dak took a win, 133 to 117 against Lions Kool-Aider. They're both at 3-3. And AJ's Depression dropped to 2-4 and lost to Marine City Cubbies, who moved to 5-1. So yeah, honestly, the league is still very competitive. No one's like really running away with it.
Yeah, what's going to be really rough is that cutoff point for the playoffs. So, the heartbreaker is going to be just barely not making the playoffs because whoever that is going to be a darn good team. When you're looking at this, there isn't anybody who's going to, I think, run away with this. And right now, looking at it on paper, Marine City looks like they're ahead. And again, this isn't a knock to the team, but there were 2 wins that were only by 2 points, and 127 points last week doesn't exactly scream domination, right? So in this league, if you can get to even 115, 120 points, what it also speaks to, I think, is the spread of talent, that everyone drafted really well and everyone's making moves because each team is really well balanced against itself, and against the other teams. So I just want to point that out there, that it's hard being in my position where I love trading and changing things and having a year where I'm expected to do that and everyone else is now doing those things. So some of the moves that I'm typically accustomed to doing where no one else, on the waiver wire that week grabbed anything except for me and maybe a few others. Now it's like, you better spend cash. You better jump in there. You better research. You better be looking at it because there's just a ton going on. And to give you an example of that, you had Fitzmagic being dropped by Rager bombs, and I had already been thinking of that. I was like, I kind of want Tua because I had Dak go down, and I was trying to figure out what's my situation here for a quarterback. And you've got people just immediately, like as soon as the news hits, just making moves.
Well,
And
the Antonio Brown thing today.
Or the Antonio Brown thing, yeah.
Someone picked them up real quick. I forgot who it was.
Did he get signed?
He's expected to get signed by the Seahawks.
Okay.
It's crazy how
really?
quickly people are picking up players that go into free agency. Like, it's insane. Like, as soon as I get the alert on my phone, so-and-so has entered free agency, I swipe right to add them, and I look, and 3 people have already put bids in.
Anthony, if it makes you feel like any more confident in my statement, Adam Schefter put him on his fantasy team.
No, I'm not questioning you. I'm questioning why Seattle would want to bring that into their locker room when they've got a really solid team. I feel like that's
get Tyler
Lockett, the sheep. That's Well, that's the other thing. Okay, so he comes back. Granted, I don't think he's not going to be Antonio Brown from 3 years ago. But how much does that disrupt what they've got going on? How much does that affect the fantasy value of those 2 wide receivers?
I hate it because I have Tyler Lockett.
Right, and Horry's sitting
DK?
on DK. So both of those guys have been top 10 receivers, I think, all year, most of the year.
They've been pretty good.
So that's wow.
And the Ravens defense just got better, which I'm so happy about. Because they signed Ngakwe, or they traded for him from the Vikings.
I don't like that. I have 2 running backs in their division. I don't like that.
Which can we talk about defenses for a second? I've had the Bills this whole time until I dropped them. And every single website that I look at seems to put the Bills in the top 3. Some of them have them at number 1 and still do. I have no idea how. Good luck to whoever picked up the Bills. I'm sick of billing it up every single week and only getting a few points. So hopefully, I watched a little of the Bills game and they looked okay, but I just feel like there are other teams out there that can do some bigger things. So I grabbed a different team. And good luck to whoever picked up the Bills. I hope it works out. I don't get why they're ranked so high. And defense is something that I can interchange and I don't care about. And same with tight end, like some of you. So whatever.
This is the only time I'm going to keep 2 defenses on my roster because Baltimore's on a bye. Baltimore scored me 26 points 2 weeks ago. They won me a game, so I'm gonna keep them. Because usually I'll just drop whoever, like kickers, for instance. Like I'll drop a kicker to add someone who's not on a bye.
Right.
Defenses are kind of iffy, though. They can be home runs or they could be duds.
Yeah.
You just hope they don't go into the negative.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, if they go into the negative, something that you just gotta drop them. That's you pack it in. You're like, they didn't really play at all. I've kind of done.
Yep.
All right. Do we want to go into the matchups this week?
Sure.
All right, I'm gonna go, guys. Everyone have a good night.
All right, see you later,
All
Anthony.
right. See you.
See you guys.
Do you want to head this off, Jeremy?
I'm sorry. There's a dryer just blasting right next to me, so I'm trying to beat myself. But yeah, I will run through this. Let's see what this week's matchups are. Let me find the right. I have far too many tabs open. Okay. So, week 7 matchups coming at you. It is me going up against the refrigerator.
I need you to win, Jeremy. I need you to win.
To win. Okay, I'm gonna do my best to win. I mean, it's only 21 points. I feel like I've seen that is 20 points is about the margin of error, I think, on these predictions, unless something goes nuts. Then we got Anthony and Jorge. That's gonna be a tight matchup, and that's gonna be really hard.
That'll be a good one
for Anthony to try and take the get his way back into the league with that. Jorge trying to beat him back. We'll see how it works out. We got No Pants Sits March at 3-3, going up against Empire Strikes Deck. What do you think, Chip, going into this game? Now this is a pretty close matchup. It's within 10 points.
Yeah. Honestly, like I've said this before on the other podcast, whatever the number is that Yahoo projects, it's scary. I think almost every single week it's had me like slightly ahead of whatever the team is, and then I end up 3-3. So, what do I think? I think that it could go either way, like you were just saying about another matchup, and it's too scary. The other thing is when you're calling these out, whatever the projection is for Yahoo, you don't know whether or not guys have actually set their lineup. So their lineup
correct.
will change the numbers here and there. But this is a scary one. Like I said, No Pants since March. Adam's been the most active player this year, in my opinion. He is sending trades and been in trade discussion with me. There's 28 moves that he's made. He definitely does not want to lose this game. I know him well enough to know that. I'm scared. That's all I'll say. Like I don't know. I don't know. What's gonna happen, but I'm scared.
He has a COVID kicker on his team right now, so maybe he won't be able to fill that slot in time, or maybe he won't fill that slot at all.
I guarantee you he'll fill the slot. I guarantee you. Yeah, I just hope Dalton comes to play. I mean, looking at that matchup, I have Andy Dalton, and if you saw any of the game with Andy Dalton,
look at Andy Dalton.
It was a disaster. So if he does another disaster game, I'm actually worried, because what if they don't actually start him? Because they pulled him near the end of the game, if you watched it, because he was that bad. So if they don't actually start him and they start some random rookie or whatever it was that they put in the end, I'm going down hard, and I don't know what to do, because I just have Tua waiting to play, and who knows what that's going to be. So
I think that was a Stafford Orlovsky situation where it was like a reprimanded pulling. It was like, you're sucking, and if you keep doing this, I'm gonna do it more often. But it seems like that spirited of a pull.
I don't think they'll take Andy Dalton out unless he's either hurt or they're protecting him, because the game's either a blowout on either side. They paid him way too much money for him to sit on the bench. This is the reason why they got Andy Dalton. So in case something happened to Dak, he could come in and be a serviceable backup. Andy Dalton's been in the league for long enough to know what to do, and he was not himself last week. We gotta remember that he took the Bengals to the playoffs against a very good Steelers team in that division.
That Bengals team way outplayed the people on their team.
Yeah, and that Bengals team was like 2 penalties away from beating the Steelers in the playoffs. So Andy Dalton had some success in his career, and I honestly don't think he's that bad of a quarterback. He had a bad game. There's a lot of stuff coming from inside the Dallas locker room saying that Mike McCarthy doesn't know how to coach. A lot of anonymous players, of course, but they're saying that they're not happy there, and when stuff starts leaking out, usually when there's smoke, there's fire. So who knows? The Cowboys are a shit show, and they'll probably win their division with going 6-10.
I think Jeremy's quarterback too. I think Aaron Rodgers had a horrible last week, and he's due for a 40-pointer soon, and he's capable of that. So if you get that out of him, you have another couple of guys catch fire, you could probably win your game, too. So who knows?
Well, I didn't know if you guys knew this, but Aaron Rodgers is actually like 0-3 at the last 3 years, coming off a bye week.
Oh,
So that kind of explains it.
well, we'll see how he,
from last week.
Oh yeah.
This week I think he'll bounce back too. Also, Andy Dalton's going against the Washington football team, so honestly, not a great defense. So I think you'll be fine, Chip.
Yeah.
But if you're not, Drew Brees is on the table.
Drew
I've
Brees
also
or Tom Brady?
All right, so you want to go to the next one?
Yeah, what's the next matchup?
Next one is Rager Bombs versus Depression. AJ, like we've said earlier, has had kind of a rough luck of it this year. Another close lineup. I don't know. Rager Bombs, like I said, these people who have 4 wins can start putting some distance between themselves and the rest of the pack.
I need AJ to win this week too.
Yeah.
I need him bad.
Yeah,
There's too many teams that have 4 wins.
Exactly.
I hate it.
There's people with 4 wins right now are gonna start dropping like flies. It's the same way with undefeated teams in the NFL around this time of the year.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna win the Super Bowl, but it's a good indicator that you're gonna get to the playoffs at least.
So AJ's texted me before and said, or I've just been talking to him. He says he has the best worst team ever. Because his team will either put up like 180 points or they'll put up like 60. So, I mean, that team can either go off in a given week or just completely throw up a goose egg. So, who knows? Although he has McKinnon for San Francisco, so he should get a lot more touches because Mostert's going to be out. So that bodes well for him. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Yahoo has him at the 3rd most points of the week, and if that holds true, he'll have a victory here. I mean, like AJ said, I agree with AJ. I think his team is one of those, hit or miss teams, and he's just his unlucky situation is that he has players that are either hot or not. That's it, and there isn't a lot of consistency on the team, and I happen to like players where I can count on 15 points even, instead of a player who gets 40 points and then 6 points and then 10 points. I'd rather have a player just give me what I can count on, so I know what I've got. And he doesn't have that. He has players that can like wildly outpace their spread or just be way under. So who knows what we're gonna get out of that team.
Yeah. Next up, we got Lions Coolators Mike versus Busted Lip Brendan. Brendan has not set his lineup yet. So don't pay too much attention to the predicted score, but there you have it. 3-3 versus 2-4.
That's a big week for them too, because honestly, if you're gonna get into the playoffs, you need to start winning now. And those 2-4 teams, like Anthony and him, they have a chance. They have a legit shot, but they just need to start winning now, which is totally possible. So I don't count them out of the playoffs yet.
Yeah, okay. Next up, who do we have? It is Jordan versus Marine City Cubbies. Jordan, this is a big week for you, huh?
I am terrified this week.
This is a scary
Big
team.
one.
I am so scared. I mean, obviously he's 5-1, top seed in the league. But a lot of my starters are on bye this week. I think I have like 3 or 4 of them on bye weeks. So that's makes me a little nervous.
Yeah,
I replaced them as good as I could.
5 on
I have
5.
5. That's rough. I replaced them as good as I could, and honestly, I have pretty good depth at wide receiver, where I have Mike Evans, Will Fuller, and Tyler Lockett as my wide receivers. So I'm not too worried. I mean, like obviously his lineup is stacked. With like Patty Mahomes, Keenan Allen's gonna have a good week.
He has 5 buys and a COVID, but they're not his starters.
It's going to be interesting to see what Edwards-Helaire is how many touches he's going to get, because Le'Veon Bell just signed there. So I'm kind of hoping Le'Veon Bell takes a lot of his touches away. But like I said, I'm terrified of this matchup because this is a huge week.
Yeah, I think he has Mahomes as his quarterback, and that's scary enough that he could have a player that goes off for 45, almost 50 points, depending on how well he plays against whatever team, and there's half the points you need to win in this year, right there.
Right.
in most cases. So when you're looking at it, like you said, Hilaire has been amazing. You've got players that can and will go off, and it all depends. I mean, everyone's pulling for you, Jordan. We all just kind of want to keep the people on the top sort of down a peg, so we all have a chance.
Right.
If he wins this week, he's going to be off and flying and taking that number one spot away from us. So
I almost just said screw it and put Baker Mayfield in because he's playing Cincy, but we'll see how I feel on game day.
I don't.
Sunday 10 a.m.
Mayfield in.
Why are the Saints playing at 10 a.m.?
Is that?
Why is Dallas playing at 10 a.m.? And the Steelers? What the heck's going on?
I don't see any of those.
Sunday 10 a.m.
Pacific time.
It says 1 p.m.
Does it say Eastern?
Yeah, you're on the Jordan.
I might be on
you're
Pacific
in the wrong time
time.
zone.
Yeah.
What time is it on your laptop right now?
I'm just telling you what Yahoo's telling me, Jeremy.
What time is it on your laptop right now?
It's 7:07.
Yeah, Yahoo,
Okay. I want to make
Yahoo
sure
might
you're in
be-
the right time
that
zone.
it's kind of like an Apple device that defers to California for weather until
Yep.
you somehow figure out how to switch it. Yeah, so just another couple things. When we're looking at the divisions, I wanted to bring this up too today because I think one thing that's starting to come out as a pattern is that Division 1 looks, at least right now, it looks a little weaker than Division 2. And so if you look at Division 2, you've got Jordan and Refrigerator and Marine City, and that's 5-1, 4-2, 4-2, 4-2. The 4-2s go deep all the way four teams deep. And then if you look at our division, the one I'm in Division 1, we only have one 4-win team. There's 3 of us with 3-3. But what I'm looking at is it's a possibility, right? That when the playoffs happen, that someone in Division 2 that's a really decent team has that cutoff happen because we go by division. So that's going to make it cutthroat in that Division 2.
Yeah, I'm 4-2 and I'm the 3rd seed in my division. What the heck's up with that?
I think what that is
pretty
that because
cool,
we
yeah.
played 4 intra-divisional games and 2 non-divisional games, people have gotten more wins because of me being in this division. That's 4 extra wins basically that have been split up between the 4-2, 4-2, 4-2, 5-1 that the other league doesn't have. That's what my guess is.
Jeremy, the points against you is insane.
I know.
I looked at because Yahoo does a little roundup thing at the end of each week, and they'll send me
got
an
an
email and want me to read it, and I never read it. But this week I read it, and it's you'd be 1-5 if you had War Crimes for Dimes schedule, and I'm like, that's terrible. I'm like, I feel bad,
Yeah.
but hey, that's fantasy football,
At this
baby.
point, I just want to see that number get as high as it can.
Well,
I just want
I
the
don't know.
points against me to be. I want 2K points against me by the end of the season.
you need to start spending more money on the waiver wire, Jeremy. You got $95.
Yeah, I do need to do that. I definitely need to do that.
Alrighty, you guys want to talk about anything else?
That was the recap. We looked at what's going on next week. We talked about the news. I don't have anything else.
No.
Thursday night football tonight. Giants Eagles gonna be a horrible game probably.
Oh yeah.
Ooh,
I'd almost rather
Yeah,
watch Falcons Lions.
Teddy Bridgewater's on the waiver
Right.
wire. So
I don't need them.
if you need
Yeah,
a
I dropped him. He did nothing last week. And
don't trust Teddy B.
Now, I mean, so my question was, if Dalton's going to do anything, then maybe I go with Teddy and try and figure that out. And I decided after watching Dalton that it wasn't bad enough. It was such a bad performance that it can't happen again.
It's an anomaly.
If it was kind of a
It's anomalous.
mediocre performance, yes, then I probably would have dropped Dalton, picked up or put Teddy in, and just ran with Teddy. So
You can only go
it
up
was
from
so
here.
bad that yeah. It was one of those deals where it was like, there's no way, right? There's no way that happens again. But just in case, I guess I have Tua.
That's
Who
sound
knows?
logic.
Like my season could just blow up. Yeah. So that was my thought process there. Teddy's not that great, but if you need somebody to fill in for a week, you can throw him in.
Yeah, I mean Derek Carr's available too. Big Dick Nick Foles is available.
Tom Brady's on the trading block.
Kyle Allen's available. There's some good players on the waiver wire. So just
There are some teams out there that, if you look at their roster, they have 3 quarterbacks, and there's a team I think that still has 3 tight ends, and to me, those kind of strategies, and even like 2 defenses or 3 defenses, even there are some teams that have 2 kickers. Those are the kind of strategies where it's working for them. Somehow they've got a better record, and I'm looking at it going, man, I would love to have one of those quarterbacks. But it's got to feel the same way for people who want a running back, where a team's got all the running backs loaded up, and they're like, but you're not even using them. They're on your bench, like three players deep. Can I please snag that player? But it is what it is this year. Everybody's grabbed the good players, and it's clear that now the waiver wires, the pickings are really thin, to be honest.
We're digging for gold, and there's less and less of it.
Yeah, there's not a lot out there, and that's why you see guys really spending their cash now, because now everything's kind of been defined. You can kind of see where the NFL's heading. You can tell what teams are doing and what their strategies are, who they're going to, who their number one option is, all that stuff. And I don't think a lot's going to change unless there's a big, huge, injury like Dak or McCaffrey or something like that. So, the waiver wire is starting to be less of a thing to make your team better, and now it's all about just sort of like trying to figure out if your team can stay consistent. If not, I totally expect, and it's already happened, but I totally expect this year to be an astronomical year for trades. So we'll see what happens. All these mid-tier teams that are trying to get just one notch better, let's see what they can do, or let's see what they're going to do,
Because for a lot of teams, it's just if they could have one more player that has a big play, that changes their whole season.
And it changes their season because everyone's kind of at that 100 teens mark or 120, somewhere in that range. And if you can just climb yourself to 130 or even 140, you put yourself in kind of an elite class if you can average that, right? So everybody needs that extra 10 points right now. And everyone's, I think, scrambling to try and figure out, should I move this guy or that guy? Will this get me another 3 or 4 points? How about this guy? At least that's how I'm thinking about it, and trying to move things around and try and just squeeze a few more points out of it. Because look at, like we talked about this earlier, but Marine City lost 2 games by 2 points. And
that's
so
crazy.
Yeah, just, and it's crazy to me he didn't lose 2 games. He won 2 games by 2 points. Yeah. Had he lost that, like you said, he'd be 3-3. And with the majority of us in the league right now, just sort of mediocre, trying to scramble to try and be ahead. So, yeah, no, I think that this league, the movement we've seen, everybody's strategy, everything that we're doing, we're all adapting to the moment as to how things are shaping up. It's been crazy, but a lot of fun at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think it's almost one of the reasons is because the lack of a preseason. Those rookies especially who weren't getting a lot of reps early on in the season, like Chase Claypool had a breakout game, and now he's one of the top receivers in the league. I think he's 15th in the league right now with overall points in a PPR league. So like those players have emerged, and I feel like after like that big wave of those players emerging, like Justin Jefferson and Chase Claypool, they got picked up right away. So it's very interesting to see like what people resort to get those players now that they've already kind of had their like coming out games.
Yeah, and a lot of people right now, they can point to players on their roster, and at least a handful of players where you're like, they're good enough to not drop, but you won't play them. So now you're stuck with this handful of players where you're like, if I drop them, somebody's going to pick them up. And I don't want it to go against me, but I don't know what to do with this player. And that's why I'm saying that's kind of the formula or the makings and the ingredients for a lot of trades, where those players, if I give you this, maybe I can get that kind of thing. You're seeing a lot of that happening right now. And I think it's just going to continue as teams are sort of building for that playoff push. And you really go through those changes. Like Anthony was saying before he left, you're building for the playoffs, and you need your team to find some level of consistency and then catch fire. That's how you win. It is not about, having the best players on your roster. It's about that. It's about finding the consistency and then figuring out how to catch fire right at the right time. That's it.
It's not necessarily about how much you win, it's about when you win.
Right.
Which I think is kind of a fantasy football thing that people often forget about, because once you get to the playoffs, everything's out the window.
Yep.
Your record doesn't matter anymore. So that's my thought on the matter.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, guys. Thank you for joining us on this week 7, episode 6.
Yep, week 7.
I think edition of the League of Legends podcast. See you guys next week. Thank you guys for being on. Oh, if
See you
you
guys
want to
later.
be on,
You guys.
message me on Facebook, and I'll get you on the podcast. Anybody out there listening who wants some screen time. Okay, thank you guys. See you later.